So we're talking today about business transparency, and much of the focus on business transparency tends to be on the reputational aspects, particularly from a customer point of view. But there's another side to this, isn't there? Helen, what does this mean from an investor's point of view?
Yes, you're right. It's an issue that's becoming increasingly important for investors as well. So environmental, social and governance factors, or ESG, as they're referred to, are something that's moved from relative obscurity 10 or so years ago to something that's really mainstream now. And if you look at the United Nations principles on ESG that were developed back in 2006, at that time there were about 60 signatories to those, and that's about 2,000 today. So it's clear that it's becoming a key issue for investors as well.
And is this being driven by regulation, or is this something that's a voluntary thing that those in the industry are choosing to invest ethically?
At the moment, it's mainly voluntary and driven by investor demand, but there is some move for regulation in the area as well. So, for example, in June of this year, the European Commission published proposals which would see environmental factors being something investment managers have to consider as part of their duty to act in clients' best interests. And more recently in the UK, there's been some regulations published which mean from October next year, pension fund trustees will have to consider this kind of factor and include certain statements in their investment principles.
And how are we seeing this being evidenced? Are we seeing tangible investment choices being made on ESG factors?
Yes, it's certainly one of the things that investors are looking at in their due diligence of managers these days, both in terms of generalist strategies, but also we're seeing the development of more sustainable strategies in specific funds. So, for example, BlackRock, which is the world's largest asset manager, recently launched a sustainable ESG bond fund in the US. And they've also said that although that's a policy of theirs at the moment, in the future they see themselves dropping the word sustainable because it's just going to become part of all of their core strategies.
And are we seeing this have an impact on what companies are having to or choosing to report on? Are they having to go beyond the bare minimum under statutory requirements?
Yes, definitely. So where companies are taking investment from investment managers and large funds, they'll certainly have to be reporting above the statutory requirements on this kind of stuff. And there is a move to standardise that to a certain extent. So the PRI, which was set up under the UN principles I referred to earlier, has recently published some suggestions on reporting with the aim of standardising to a certain extent so that companies know the kind of reporting they're going to be expected of them from fund managers generally.
And so then, looking at this positively for companies, does that mean that those who are able to demonstrate those ESG credentials are now more attractive to fund managers?
Yes, that's definitely the case. So it's not just a risk mitigation tool, but companies who are well set up in this area, both in terms of compliance and reporting, will definitely be more attractive to fund managers going forwards.
And is there anything that businesses should be aware of or can do to make sure that they fall on the right side of these ESG factors?
Yes, so certainly companies would be well advised to take some advice and do their own internal due diligence on these things to make sure that they are reporting to the required standards, and also if that due diligence highlights any issues, that they've addressed those in advance of them being raised by stakeholders. So that's both important from a risk mitigation perspective, but also to help those companies look attractive for further investment.
Helen, thank you very much.
Thank you.